Hello, everyone. I am Suzanne Hacker. I am your vacation rental business coach with Welcoming Wow, and I am here today with Bridget DeGarmo with Rhoming. So, Bridget, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your company to get us started, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Suzanne. I'm excited to be here. So Roaming is a midterm rental platform. I know traditionally, people think of short-term rentals, the vacation homes, and then the long-term rentals, the unfurnished, sign a year lease somewhere. And we are in the middle somewhere. I always say it's sweet spots in the middle. Um, so we offer what our platform does is people can put their listings on there, and we offer the midterm option, which is 30 days or more. So anyone who's seeking housing for 30 days or more can book that property. And what we're really looking at, it's a different clientele than what you're looking at with the other types of rentals, right? One is someone's moving there, they need a long lease, and the other one, someone's staying there for a couple of weeks or a weekend. But these are people who are a big portion of our clientele would be like people relocating to another area. Sometimes that can take months in this market right now, right? With low inventory, people are there. It takes them 4 or 5 months to find a house. So relocations is a big one. I think COVID has really changed the landscape as well. And so we have a lot of remote workers. I think people traditionally just think of traveling nurses, which are vital and a big portion of that. Yeah. But there's a lot of other traveling professionals, contract workers. We've been, at least where our homes and how Rhoming started, is actually near a military base. And we get so many clients from the contract workers there. And I'm prior military myself, active duty. So I have a good relationship with the base, and I've been able to form those relationships. We also see a lot of seasonal renters, snowbirds. They want to get away from the cold, or some people want to go to the cold and go to ski season. So we get a lot of those. And so what you're seeing is really a different client base that people can tap into with our platform. I think there's also a good opportunity to even do a little mix in their portfolio if they choose to do so.
Sure. So when you talk about a mix, what would that look like, do you think? If somebody owned, let's say somebody owned a property right now and it's just on, say, a short-term rental, but it is in a very seasonal area, how would they set that up?
Absolutely. So as we know, with short-term rentals, there's some very high seasons, and that's why it's so lucrative. And people want to do short-term because of that, return on investment, right? They can charge those high daily rates during those times. They know they're going to get it and get the bang for their buck. But then you see those low seasons. And after you do it about a year, when those seasons are, you can predict them out. And that's where the midterm option, I think, really, you can have that STR, MTR mixed portfolio. You can go ahead, block it out for your high seasons, keep that revenue coming in for your STRs. And then if you can anticipate that slow season, then you can make up for it, because midterms offer a much higher occupancy right off the bat, right? So you can go ahead and rent it out for those 3 months are slow, and then your calendar is booked for the year. So I think it's a great option to even offer a mixed portfolio, not just be tied to one.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point. So why did you start this business?
It's a very funny story, kind of, I want to say by accident, but I've been in long-term rentals for a very long time. Because being prior military, moving's no big deal. I just I buy a house, get a job, I move from my job, I rent, I buy another one. And it's just kind of been what I've done. But then I'm actually living in Raleigh now, but I was in Charlotte. One of my properties, which was a long-term rental for about 6 years, my tenants moved out. They were great tenants, moved out. And my husband and I decided, let's fix it up and make it a short-term rental. We actually wanted to get into the short-term rental game and switch from LTR to STR. And so we renovated the house thinking, we're going to sell it. COVID happened. So it's been a lot of mix and all that. And we decided, we had put so much sweat equity into it, and it's located just this great place. It's like less than 4 miles from the beach. We love the area our home is in, which is in Charleston, South Carolina. And so at this point, we're like, oh, it would be so nice to stay here every year. And, so let's try to do this. So when we went to apply for the licenses that you need, which in a lot of areas, municipalities, it's regulated, right? The STR market's very regulated in a lot of areas, and getting more so in some areas. We were too late in the game in our town. So they only, that particular town, they only give certain number of licenses at the beginning of the year. It's first come, first serve. And after they're out, that's all they allow. So at this point, we're summer and going into fall. So we're like, well, we can't STR it now. And it was like, well, what do? We don't have any revenue coming in. This house is sitting empty. And the only way to get around it was to do a minimum 30 days because that didn't fall into the STR, definition for that state. So we decided to try it out. Let's see what happens. It was just a wait and see. And it went fantastic. That's, at the end of the day, it just went fantastic. We actually booked out almost 2 years out offering midterm rentals within 4 months of listing your property. It was that much. And then we were getting so many requests for the midterm house and it was booked. We're like, let's go buy another house in the same area. So we did. And then we booked that one out. And then from just sharing my experience with just friends and family, I started helping them, turn some of their homes from long-term or even short-term, offering this midterm option and just having that stable income, which I think during COVID was just very important for a lot of people to kind of take a step back and be able to do that. And just, I started doing this, helping others. They were doing great at it. And then it was like, well, how, this could help a lot of people. How do I do this bigger and, where I can actually have that reach? And so I started putting together a business plan for Rhoming and then started getting to work with, our web developer. And so this has been about a year in the making and we're actually seeing the green light. We're going to launch it. We're projecting about 6 weeks out before our launch. And I'm very excited to finally see it all come to fruition.
Awesome. That's a great story. I'm sure there are a lot of other people who have similar stories to that as well, when either the short-term regulations changed in their city or they thought they were one thing and they went to get the license and it was completely different. So yes. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to that story as well.
Yes. And, Suzanne, because you bring that up, there are people who are finding themselves in that predicament where they were able to offer short-term rentals. And then all of a sudden their city, Atlanta, was one of them that happened not too long ago that said, you can't own more than 2 in Atlanta. Oh, and so then people were left with this option. Oh my goodness, do I go long-term or do I sell my house? But I'm like, you can do a midterm. Let's give you back, a third, and there's another option because midterms do offer a higher revenue than long-term rentals. We don't get as high of a daily rate as a short-term rental, but it still offers you, an increased revenue and a way to keep that passive income flowing if you already have the property set up, if restrictions, become a problem.
Right. And the nice thing too, you bring that up is that, let's say somebody has a short-term rental and they're not fully booked every month. A furnished midterm rental option may end up being better than a short-term if they're having trouble getting the bookings too. So let's say they're only booked 10, 15 days out of the month. I have a feeling there might be more of an opportunity in a midterm rental than a short-term rental too. Because sometimes the saturation in that market can sometimes cause that as well.
Yeah, it's really, it's really kind of give and take, right? Because with the short-term rentals, you have that high daily rate, but you might not have the occupancy you need. But with the midterm, you have increased occupancy, not as high of a rate. It kind of balances out sometimes. And, it just really depends on your market and what's best suited for it. Sometimes you just got to test it out.
Yeah, good point. So tell us a little bit more about you, yourself, tell us about your background, and also if you could tell us about any other key members of your organization.
Sure. Well, myself, I grew up in Florida. Wasn't born there, but I grew up there. That's the one I claim. And I am, as I mentioned, I'm prior active duty Air Force. Really enjoyed my time. I always just like to mention it because it really is a part of my life. Being prior military, you never lose those relationships. Sure. I'm a mom. I have 2 kiddos, a wonderful husband, and I got 2 babies. That is really the reason I'm in this, doing all of this. We want to have a greater quality of life. We don't want to be tied to our 9 to 5. So, that's a little bit about me. As far as the important key people in my organization, my husband's the behind the scenes guy. He's not the in your face, but he is awesome at contracts and,
Right.
making sure all the T's are, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. So he's really been very key in that aspect. Our staff is now growing, so we now have our customer support and admin support.
Awesome.
So we're getting ready, in anticipation for the launch, but they're
Yeah.
going to be really key players in making sure that everything runs smoothly, that we're providing the correct customer service. And I think the biggest, like so vital to our organization as far as partners is going to be our preferred partners. Our business model is very, very unique. And what we do and the way our business is set up is we actually partner with property management companies in each state. So we're not just a listing platform. What you get from listing with our platform is you get access to these property management professionals, and they actually do tenant screening and write your state specific lease for you. That comes with a booking on our site. So if someone wants to, book your property, their tenant's going to be screened. They have to go through a application process, just like a long-term rental. And I think that makes us different. I don't think you find that in a lot of platforms, So,
Yeah.
but I think if someone's staying in your property for 3 months or 6 months, I mean, we need to know who they are, that they're a good tenant, that they've been screened, that they can pay the rent.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's what makes our business model unique, is our preferred partnership program. And I think they're just vital people in part of our business model and our organization.
That's great. Thank you for explaining that too. So would you say that that's the best feature of your product, or would you say there's something else that would be the best feature?
I would say yes. I kind of put it together in the power of our network, because our network is these property management professionals. They might be property managers, they might be realtors who work in that area. But one of the key components of Rhoming is building this network. And there are all kinds of people, we've had to create relationships with, like I said, the military base was one of them. We created relationships with insurance companies. We're creating relationships with staffing agencies, nurse staffing agencies, so that we ensure that we're bringing you the customers, the clientele, the tenants that are staying in your properties. And really for this, it's all about relationships. So we're constantly just adding and growing to our Rhoming network. And you get the power of that by listing on our property, tapping access to these people who are going to be working in partnership with us to provide you, at the minimum, you're going to, the screening and the lease, but then beyond that, they can offer their services should you need them.
Sure. Awesome then. So how do interested property owners or property managers sign up with you? What's the best way to contact you?
Well, because we haven't officially launched, but please, sign up. I think the best way is to get on our landing page, fill out the inquiry, and that way we will let you know as soon as the launch happens and you're able to upload your properties. So getting on our website, or the other ways, they can email me directly. I'd be happy to send, our host information to our property hosts out there. And that right now is the best way. We are keeping a list of people per state, so we can let you know when it's available.
Well, we'll have a follow-up interview then in 6 weeks when you're launched, and then we'll be able to really tell everyone all about it. Yes. That would be great. So what sets you apart from others that might be kind of in this same space?
What sets us apart is absolutely our business model. It's very unique. There's nothing like it out there. Like I said, we don't want to be just a listing platform. We want to give tenants what I would want as a homeowner, which is how we base this. When we were trying to find people, when we marketed our property and we were looking for tenants, we wanted to ensure that we had good tenants, that they would take care of our home. It's our home, it's our investment. We work hard. And so we wanted to provide that to others. And so I think that's what really sets us apart. It's not just you're listing on our site and we forget about you. We value our hosts. And I think they'll see that in what we offer.
Now, will there be a maximum length of stay that somebody could have, or not really? Is that more up to the owners?
So we recommend a year. I'm going to say it's a recommendation, because that's the other part. We want our host to we want to empower them. We want them to still, those are their properties. They are the decision makers for their property. We recommend a year. And the reason we do that is because you start getting into the long-term space where we know the market fluctuates. And if you rent out for more than a year, it's up to you. I mean, I rented my properties out for 2 years, but you risk, inflation rates. You risk not having in the maximum revenue that you can actually earn. But if you want to not think about it and have it rented out, sure, we can do that. But if you want to get the most of it, you might want to wait a little longer to know that you can take advantage of that inflation and market your property price appropriately.
Okay, awesome. So what bit of advice would you have for owners or property managers as they're looking to grow their business?
Relationships, networking. I think it's just vital, whether you're, creating that relationship with your guests that are staying. That's what keeps them coming back. Creating those relationships with, if you with the midterm game, especially, a lot of those people, especially seasoned people, they're coming year after year. You want to create those good relationships. And even, if you're trying to market yourself, like calling these companies, letting them know, hey, I have a house available if you have people coming in. This is all the stuff we've been doing at Rhoming to create these relationships so people can call us up and we can, find a house. But I think it's so important. Your property that's your business, that's your investment. So I think it's very important to have those relationships and build those relationships.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm sure you do you have any business goals for Rhoming that you want to share with everyone?
So Rhoming, we envision it as being a nationwide booking platform.
Yeah.
That's what's missing right now in the midterm market. There really isn't a booking platform for midterm rentals. There's places you can list, but we really want to be the go-to midterm rental platform for everybody. There are those names that we know for short-term game, and long-term is usually more local with a realtor, but we want to be that midterm go-to platform when people need resources for their midterm. We want to be able to provide that. We want to be the midterm resource for you. That's going to be my overall goal, and hopefully get it open in as many states as possible. But we also want to be smart about how we're doing this. And so we are going to launch in phases. Immediately, anyone can upload their listing. Everyone's vetted. So we want to make sure, we're doing this safe. We're keeping everyone, just thinking about security. But I think goals is going to be to grow, to scale, to grow our network, and just, grow a great platform that people think of and go to for midterm stays.
So then if I'm understanding it correctly too, once you're launched and I'm looking for a house, let's say in Orlando, Florida, and I have a job that I'm going to do there, and I'll be there for 2 months. So it sounds like my first step would be to go on the platform, look for a property that I like that's in there, and then submit an application.
Yep, you're just going to hit apply now. Like once you look at the property, it'll be similar like a lot of the platforms where you can search by map or search by city, however you want to search. You find one you like, and it gives you all the details, what's included, all the amenities. And you hit apply now. And from there, our property management partner takes over with the screening and the leases. And then we kind of circle back because we're all doing it in partnership and together, we like to think. So It's going to be that easy.
So is there anything that I haven't asked you yet today that you want to make sure you tell people about?
I think you covered a lot of the big stuff. I think we covered a lot of the big stuff. I think I really wanted to touch on, the advantages of midterm rentals and how also they can complement your current portfolio. And also, I think most of your people are short-term rental owners, but for those who have portfolio of investment properties, even in the long-term game rental model, the long-term rental model, there's also an opportunity there because there just isn't enough midterm housing where we're seeing oversaturation maybe of other markets. The midterm market is still relatively new.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a lot of room to grow that market, and have an option out there that people currently don't have. Like right now, Hurricane Ian, there's a shortage of midterm rentals for people to stay at the
I
moment.
know.
So we're only going to
Yeah.
see that continue to grow. And I think it's just a great way to kind of tap into that early on.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so we're looking to go live sometime in the next 6 weeks or so, but everyone, I'm sure, will stay posted on that.
Yes.
I think the other thing I was thinking about as far as the midterm is those that do have those long-term rentals that are maybe looking to diversify and go into that midterm too, just like you mentioned. But I know that the term midterm wasn't really even talked about much until maybe the last year or so.
Yeah, that's true.
It was short term and long term. Those were your
Right.
options.
I mean, there's limited when you go online, and it's not that the midterm space wasn't there, it's been there. But I think it's just, it's kind of bled into these other markets, right? Because people can still go on short-term platforms and book a midterm stay.
Sure.
And or they can find some type of corporate housing or corporate apartment that offers them a short-term lease unfurnished, right?
Yeah.
So I think those opportunities have been there, but there hasn't been something focused solely on that market.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to do that, because I think it makes it's harder to search for those items right now, or for those types of housing if you want something. And it's also very expensive. And that's one thing I didn't mention now that I remember. For roaming, it's been very important to us to keep our fees low. I think a lot of the short-term platforms, there's a lot of fees associated, not on the host side, but more on the guest side. And with because of the unique housing needed, we did want to make this affordable to keep people coming back, to not, have all these extra fees for our guests so that they come back. And I think that provides an advantage for the host, and roaming not doing that.
What you're doing is brilliant. So I thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you and get to know you and get to know Rhoming as well.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's been a pleasure getting to know you as well. I'm sure there's going to be also a lot of hosts that need a little coaching, on how to make the property stand out and list. And so, I hope, when we talk about relationships and networking, I hope this is one we continue to have as well.
I agree. I can't wait.
Yeah.